Start the next meeting. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Matthew Ward.
Declarations of interest or anything on the agenda? Minutes of the previous meeting, any amendments or errors spotted? Any spelling mistakes? No? People happy to approve the minutes of the last meeting? Yeah, thank you very much. There's no particular update from me unless anybody has any comments or questions for me. Everything is on the agenda. Item 5. Governance and appointments. Just going to pass to you, Jeanette, to see if there's anything else you wanted to particularly add before I pass over to Tom.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to draw your attention to the recruitment of the independent persons. So the Localism Act requires authorities to have at least one independent person. We recently advertised and recruited 3 excellent people who will be shared with amongst constituent authorities as well. We have a reciprocal relationship where we can share those people as well. We interviewed 5 outstanding candidates, and I'm pleased to say that all 5 have also agreed, including the ones that were not appointed as independent persons, have agreed to join the audit and governance committees, so TBCAs and all of the mayoral development corporations, and will help to strengthen those audit and governance committees and ensure that we have plurality moving forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you, officers, for making that happen, because I know it's been a challenge in recent times. Over to you, Tom, on the MO and Director of Finance recruitment.
Thanks, Ben. Yes, so the report also covers off an update on the recruitment process for the 2 statutory officer roles. We are seeking Cabinet approval for the permanent appointment of Andrew Perryman as Monitoring Officer. So I shared details of Andrew last Friday by email, which set out the process we've been through. So I've obviously been through a very rigorous process to try and identify candidates. The panels, again, were the same panels that we've used for previous appointments. So very kindly Lisa and Matt, myself and Ben sat on the appointment panel. And then we had our chairs of Audit and Governance and Open and Scrutiny, along with Jed Moore, who's the Monitoring Officer at Stockton, Helen Edwards, who's on our Independent Advisory Board and is the ex-Monitoring Officer at the West Midlands Combined Authority, along with some other internal panel members. So there was a really robust panel process. I shared Andrew's CV last Friday. Andrew is currently Service Director for Law and Democratic Member Services at Barnsley Council. Did really well in the interview, so we're recommending him for appointment to Cabinet today. My email also explained that I'm proposing to regrade the role of Monitoring Officer to a Director salary. A couple of reasons for that. Firstly, you'll be aware we've talked about the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Act that's just come into being, which is going to give the Combined Authority and the Tees Valley Mayor significant additional powers, particularly around planning and policing and crime. So the level of responsibility that role we're picking up is going to increase significantly. And also, as you're aware, we've got Jodie Townsend, who's been supporting us in terms of our governance improvement, and Jodie, as part of his review, recommended that role should be regraded, because a lot of the other combined authorities already have that role as a director level before you even factor in the new powers that are coming with the new Act. So that change in terms of regrading can be done by me under a delegation in the Constitution as Head of Paid Service. But what I'm proposing is that we amend recommendation B in the report to reflect the new job title. So the recommendation will be amended to approve the permanent appointment of the Director of Legal and Governance (brackets Monitoring Officer).
Okay. I just want to say thank you to Lisa and Matt for the effort put into the appointments panel and the work you put into it. It's much appreciated. Right, any comments or questions on, or anything on item 5, or anything particularly for Tom on the recruitment of the Monitoring Officer? Alec?
Just wondering where we were in terms of the Joe's replacement, and are you concerned in terms of the ability to recruit somebody as good as Joe? You were looking at me all concerned there, Joe.
We'll be set.
So yeah, so where we are, Alec, is we've got a number of live conversations. So Joe's supporting me to try and find the right person. We've got one person that we're currently trying to speak to who looks promising on paper, has got a really strong CV. There's a couple of others who I've just been introduced to this week. So we're working as hard as we can to try and find the right person, but also obviously Jo is committed to me that she's going to support me through the next few months until we find the right person, and I think she's very committed to making sure we have a smooth transition. So again, we'll keep Cabinet updated. We're trying as hard as we can to find the right person, but clearly it's an absolutely critical appointment. We need to get the right person. So we're working as hard as we can, but it's got to be the right person. And as I say, we've got a few live candidates that we're working through at the minute, and I'll keep Cabinet informed as we progress those.
And I think also it's worth reminding all Cabinet members, I appreciate you already know this, that the last meeting the Cabinet agreed to extend Jo's appointment to the end of September, so I assume, Tom, if there's any developments on that will be reported back to Cabinet, either further discussions with Jo or because we've potentially found a candidate.
Yes, we've got a Cabinet at the end of July, so I'll bring an update to that. Obviously, if anything happens in between, I'll make sure Cabinet members are aware.
Just to say, I was very impressed with the incoming modern officer. He looks really skilled and experienced.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anyone have any comments or questions on that, or anything else in the governance and appointments paper? People happy to note and agree the recommendations? Yes, thank you. On to item 6, back to you, Tom, the Organisational Improvement Plan Progress Report.
I think, Chris, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll do. So as Cabinet will be aware, there is quite a few changes to how the report looks, and I think everyone will probably find it a bit easier to look through. I want to say a big thank you to Sarah and Claire, who've done an amazing amount of work behind the scenes to make sure that we got this to a really, really good place. I think one of the key takeaways, as well as obviously the update on progress partnerships, which is now 100% complete, is to also note about the desire to move towards a continuous improvement implementation plan. One of the really important reasons that we do that is we have one of the actions, for example, in partnerships, which is complete with ongoing steps. If we don't have somewhere for that plan and those ongoing steps to go, we will forever have this organisational improvement plan open. And what we need to get to a point of is being able to close down this organisational improvement plan while moving any outstanding or new actions to the continuous improvement plan, so that we can continue to make the changes that we need. Happy to take any questions on the report, but it is very explanatory as it is.
Yes, Chris? Tom?
Just to add as well, so I shared with Cabinet the latest report from Rob Whiteman, who's chair of our Independent Advisory Board, which sets out where Rob is at in terms of the board's position. Just for context as well, Ben, Chris and myself met with Rob last week to have a conversation about the role of the board going forward and whether the right board members are on there. So we've sort of having some live conversations, Chris, myself and Ben, with Rob about actually how we shape that board going forward, and just making sure, given where we're focusing now, whether we've still got the right board membership. So that's a live conversation, and again, we'll make sure Cabinet is briefed as that progresses.
Excellent. I just want to say thanks, Chris, for taking on the responsibility as well on the improvement stuff. It's been a bit of a breath of fresh air over recent weeks, and to formally get that adopted into your portfolio is really helpful, and I know that officers have appreciated your advice, and I think it's very powerful as well on a cross-party basis that you've done that more formally outside of Cabinet meetings. So I just want to put on record my thanks to you for taking on the responsibility. It's much appreciated. Any other comments or questions on item 6? Okay, we'll note that, thank you, and we'll move on to item 7, the annual governance statement.
Thank you very much. You'll see the report as the annual governance statement, the draft annual governance statement as Appendix 1. You'll see that there's a foreword from the Chief Executive, and you'll note that this report has been considered by TVCA's Audit and Governance Committee. They had an informal meeting on the 21st of May, and their feedback was there's a tremendous amount of work and progress that's been demonstrated, and there's a wealth of evidence within the report and links that show exactly what work has taken place and where you can find it if you're reading the annual governance statement. You'll also note that the Audit and Governance Committee recommended that all whistleblowing matters are treated equally, so whether they are signed or anonymous, they must be treated seriously and equally, and that where there may be allegations, whistleblowing allegations against the monitoring officer or the monitoring officer's services, then the policy, the whistleblowing policy, I'm confusing, I'm talking about whistleblowing now, but the annual governance statements, wealth of information there. The Audit and Governance Committee also requested that we ensure that the internal auditor and the external auditors, EY, Ernst & Young, once they issue their reports, are reflected within the annual governance statement, because they noted that the weaknesses could be strengthened, and it was explained that those areas would be strengthened once we received that information from the internal and the external auditor. But it's been an absolute Herculean effort, and I think you'll appreciate all the work that's been done over the past year. It's the 2025-26 annual governance statement, and we'd just like to commend that to you. Tremendous piece of work.
Thanks, Jeanette. Any comments or questions on the annual governance statement? No, people are happy to agree with that? Yeah, thank you very much. Moving on, Joe, to the South-Tees MTFP. I assume we'll take it as read unless there's anything else you want to add.
Take it as read.
No, okay, thanks very much.
Take as many questions as I can.
Any comments or questions on item 8? People happy to note the report? Yes, thank you. Item 9. Again, take the report as read. Any comments or questions on item 9? Okay, we'll note the report, thank you. And then back to you, Jeanette, on whistleblowing. I think you're a bit eager to get onto this one.
Yeah, it's close to my heart. So the whistleblowing policy is really, really important. It's critically important. And it was presented to the Audit and Governance Committee at their informal meeting on the 21st of May. There was an internal audit about whistleblowing policy, and there were some recommendations from the internal auditors. We've addressed those recommendations within the policy. So if you look at the report, you'll see the recommendations that TIAA, our internal auditors, made, and then you'll see the actions that we've taken in response to those recommendations. And there were also 2 comments made by the informal Audit and Governance Committee. One was that whistleblowing allegations should be treated seriously, whether they're signed or anonymous. And 2, because the monitoring officer is the senior officer who receives all whistleblowing complaints and is responsible for investigating and actioning any, there ought to be something in the policy to mitigate in case there are any whistleblowing allegations against the monitoring officer or their services. So those are now reflected in the policy, which is attached as Appendix 1. And my colleagues in communications and also in HR have been working really, really hard in response to the internal auditor's comments, and you'll see the delivery plan as Appendix 2. And I'm pleased to say that many of those actions have already been implemented.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you to the Audit and Governance Committee for all of their help and recommendations. Does anybody have any comments or questions? I think I'm right in saying that in the 9 years I've been there, I think we've only ever had one whistleblowing submission. You probably before your time, Jeanette, to be fair, but I think in the whole 9 years, I think we've only ever had one.
Yeah, we haven't had
A few more leaks, though.
But it's right, it's obviously right that it's robust, but yeah, and Jeanette, it's obviously close to your heart, but it's not because there are actually any complaints.
No.
Which is helpful to know. People have to agree the whistleblowing policy item 10? Yeah, excellent, thank you very much. And on to item 11. Look to you, Joe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Intro? Okay, thank you, Chair. So, of the course, what outturn, it is broadly 2 budgets, only $500,000 difference from the original budget, but it's broadly on budget for different reasons. quite a significant swing from Q3. You may recall that we've spoke previously when setting the budget about having to provide MRP on the Gooseball TIAL loans. Through the year-end accounts work that we've been doing, we've come to the conclusion that we should have been providing MRP on the airport and Gooseball loans from when those loans were advanced. So we've now taken the decision to provide the MRP so that we have now provided for those loans from going back to 2019 actually. So the way we will do it in the outturn report, we're showing that as a charge this year, but we're actually now in discussion with the auditors, we're actually going to put the adjustment through the accounts because those year-end accounts are still open. And so that's obviously a significant swing, it's almost 3 million from Q3 to Q4 because of that backdated payment. But we think it's the right thing to do, and I've taken advice from Treasury advisors who have reinforced the message that we should have been providing MRP in those prior years. The other big swing is all year we had a budget of almost 6 million, 5.9 million for business rates income through the enterprise zone. That budget was set and predicated on a backdated amount being applicable for 24-25. Given that at the year end we're still not clear on what the position is in terms of that one particular site, we've taken the decision to be prudent in the outturn and to not accrue the backdated amount to 24-25. That doesn't mean that we won't be entitled to it, but to make sure the auditors are satisfied, we've taken a prudent approach. If we do get the backdated amount, then I'll be coming back to Cabinet if I'm still here, or my successor will be, I'm sure, to say can we then transfer that back to the devolution fund reserve. Because obviously both of those two large amounts were unforeseen and unplanned and they have significantly reduced the reserves. So you'll see the usable non-ring fenced reserves have gone down from almost 15 million opening position to a 9.3 position at year end. So obviously our financial resilience gets reduced when we've got less usable revenue reserves. So we're very important going forward if we do get that backdated amount, that a transfer back to the non-ring fence reserves is made. On the capital programme, I'm sure from your own local authorities you know it's not unusual to have an underspend on your capital programme. That also in the outturn had an impact on our cash flow and our treasury position. So originally we were forecasting to have to take 100 million of borrowing between January and March, and because there's some slippage in grant delivery, we've had the cash, which we then meant that we haven't had to go out to borrow. So that's given us quite a 4 million underspend on our interest payable budget at year end, which we were forecasting at Q3, but just to reiterate, that's the other big swing from the original budget. Other than that,
Thanks, John. Chris, did you have anything to add or?
No.
No? Okay. Any questions or comments, Graham? Thank you.
I'd just like to thank all the officers for the report. Noting the underspend on projects, the investment committee can play an important role here, alongside the new single assurance framework in challenging and scrutinising the delivery of the projects.
Thank you, Graham. Appreciate that. Anything else? Okay. People happy to approve item 11? Yep. And then straight back to you then, John, Treasury Management. Thanks as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is a technical report. Chris and I have spoken about this report. In page 2 are the key matters to highlight, so those are the important ones for all members to familiarise themselves with. I think overall our actual borrowing, as we said, has not increased by as much as we said, so it's only increased by a net 30 million, borrowed 40 but we've repaid 10. Our average cost of borrowing has increased slightly, so obviously interest rates have been higher. So as we've taken on new debt or refinanced old debt, that does mean therefore that our average cost of borrowing is increasing slightly. Hopefully that won't continue to increase, but that's probably the most notable thing. We were compliant with all the prudential and treasury management indicators throughout the year. So that's the main purpose of the report, to note that we've been fully compliant with the prudential and treasury management codes. Other than that, happy to take any questions.
Chris, is there anything you want to add? No? Any comments or questions on item 12? Do you have to agree the item? Yeah, lots of nods. Thank you very much. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Chris, for all the work on that. Keep up the good work. On to item 30, the local growth plan. Sarah.
Thanks, Chair. I think we'll take the paper as read, but I would like to just put on record a real thanks to the investment development team and the comms and marketing team within the Combined Authority. We've completely reframed the local growth plan document, and I think it's now a really positive story about Tees Valley, and it really sells the opportunities here. And we've managed to stay on track to bring that to this June meeting. The input from our local authority officers as well in that over the past couple of months has been really important. So thank you to the team. I think that just to point out, it's approval of the local growth plan. So we'll have a soft launch if approved, but we are planning on having a kind of launch event in the future, because actually what's really important is what we do with this document now, and it can only be delivered if we actually do that in partnership with a lot of stakeholders across Tees Valley. So that launch event will be planned with that purpose, a kind of a call to action and engagement with stakeholders on delivery. And there is one delegation request to myself as Director of Business Solutions, and that's just to make any minor amendments. So if that's updates to data or slight amendments to the document, as long as we're not changing the substance, it's just to give me authority to do that. Thank you.
Very good. And I just want to say, because I think it's really important, it's a really huge piece of work that's taken longer than we would like, but it's so important to get right that it was worth doing, to put on record all of the help and support and all the work done by all the council officers, leaders, you Sarah, like you said, the wider comms team, but I mean, it's always a bit awkward picking out particular individuals, but particularly Elaine and Joseph as well, who've done an incredible amount of work. And I know I've spent long evenings and nights and weekends stressing and trying to get this through. It's hugely appreciated, and I think it's a piece of work you can be really proud of, so thank you for all the work you put into it. Does anyone have any comments or questions on item 13 for Sarah and the team? Chris?
So again, yeah, thank you to all the teams. I think it's really, really important that we get this right. This now seems and feels like we're starting to line stuff up, so the inward investment strategy now feels like it falls into this, and the clusters and all the work that's being done to make sure that as a region we're able to talk nationally and we look like a place that makes sense. This all feels like it's coming together now. It's really good. It's a really good piece of work.
Thank you, Chris, and the team will appreciate that. Sarah?
Sorry, just 3 points I should probably make everybody aware of. Since we circulated the document, there's 3 things that have been slightly amended. So one is that we've moved the page around the commitments that we're making to the front into the executive summary. We've added some additional imagery around the strategic projects at the end to really bring those to life. And there's been minor tweaks to the digital and creative section, but nothing substantial.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Are people happy to approve item 13? Thank you very much. And again, yeah, on record, brilliant work, Sarah and the team. Thank you very much for everything that you've done. But this is also just the start, like I said, it's what this document delivers. So, but it's yeah, it's a good place to get to. It's as Chris has said, a great piece of work that we collaboratively worked on, and I think it's a good demonstration of how we can work on these things collectively at local authority, leader and officer level across the patch for other things in the future. So, great template to work from. Right, on to item 14, skills programme update. Just to remind members, we can obviously talk about the report in general, but if anybody wants to get into the details in the appendices to the report, those are confidential, so we will have to go into confidential session. Just to be clear, and I always like to remind people, if you do want to ask questions on the appendices, please do so. Happy to go into confidential session. Don't feel as if you don't want to send it into confidential session. Don't ask what you want to ask. So back to you, Sarah, more broadly on the item.
Yes, thank you. So I think it's important to note that the North East Chamber of Commerce was kind of the lead body working with the Combined Authority in the production of the Local Skills Improvement Plan. A lot of feedback from businesses is actually it's a really tangible plan, and we can really take some of the actions forward in it. So I think that's important to note. Also that the Education, Employment and Skills Advisory Group will oversee the implementation of the plan, obviously led by portfolio holder Councillor Evans. And it's important to note that we also have received an additional £1.2 million worth of funding from DFE to deliver the construction skills package. Now, I think this is going to continue to happen. I'm looking over at my colleague Jackie, but as they're kind of pushing additional funding out to deliver the industrial strategy, there's kind of smaller pots of money that keep coming through, but we intend to just deliver that through our normal skills provision. It's just additional investment for specific areas.
Thanks, Sarah. Lisa, is there anything you want to add?
Just thanks to the team, but also to Chamber of Commerce, what Sarah's already mentioned, but also the Education and Employment Skills Advisory Group. The feedback we've been getting in both in public but privately as well at those groups about the work we're doing is really complimentary, so just continue in the same direction and get this right.
Well, I think it's a testament to the work you and Sarah put in, Sarah, so you, Lisa, so you a lot of credit should go to you on that as well, so thank you. Graham.
We welcome the plan and have successful support the ambitions of our local growth plan. It is important that not only industry and business have the access to the right skills and scale to support economic growth in the Tees Valley, but also so that our people have the opportunity to benefit from that growth as well.
Well said, Graham. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other comments or questions? Sure, nobody wants to get into anything on the appendices? No? Okay. On that basis, people have to approve item 14? Yes? Excellent. Thank you very much. And then moving on to item 15. I assume we'll take this as read, Janet, unless there's anything else you want to add? No? Any comments or questions on item 15 on the delegated decisions? Okay, well, we'll note item 15 in the AGM. The next meeting is on the 31st of July at 10 o'clock. Thank you for your time and enjoy your weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.